Today I'm speaking to Sarah Siddons, who's in our Hug directory, and she's been through the divorce process herself. And I think sometimes we always think that experts who've dealt with other people dealing with divorce know everything about it, but it's not always so, is it, Sarah? So I just wanted to ask you today, what do you wish you had done differently if you could go through the process again, or what did you find unusual about going through it yourself?
Well, I think it's not so much what would I do differently. I think it was more actually what did I learn from the fact that I thought that I understood the process. So in the past, I've been instructed quite regularly to help support lawyers and their clients when they're going through the divorce process. But most of the time, I've come into the process quite a way down the track. And obviously I don't get involved in the sort of legal side of things. So I think when I decided that I was going to end my marriage, the thing that I realised and felt a bit exposed about was that I didn't actually understand the legal process as well as I thought I did. The one thing, though, that I felt fairly confident about was that I understood the financial side of things. And one of my concerns has always been, and I have been honest and viewed this concern with solicitors that I work with, is that they often don't get a financial planner involved right at the beginning. So I think that not only for maybe people who look at this video who are thinking about divorcing themselves or in that process, but also any other professionals such as the divorce lawyers who might sort of wonder, well, what is the value of financial planning? Maybe if I explain a bit more about what I did and how I tackled it as somebody who understands the financial side and has sort of learned as well from some of my clients. So one of the things that always stood out for me when I dealt with clients was that, for example, especially where I was dealing with a lady, quite often there was a real desire to hang on to particularly the family home and to maintain lifestyle, not particularly for that individual, but for the family, for the children. And often it would lead to people putting more money into property and leaving themselves a bit exposed in terms of their liquidity. And so I've watched people further down the track struggle a bit financially because they've then got the burden of this bigger house that they've ploughed a lot of the money into, but they don't have capital to spend on things that crop up after everything's settled. So what I did was about 18 months before I actually finished my marriage, I sat down with someone I know who is a divorce lawyer. And I sort of said to her, right, you know, if I'm going to potentially end this marriage, what do I need to know? You know, financially, what do I need to know? I know what I think I will need to maintain my life and my life for the children, but legally, what do I need to know? And she sort of said to me, one of the key things was she said to me, well, what would good look like for you? What would a good outcome look like for you? And I thought about that a lot and thought, well, my main priority was to keep the family home, to be able to afford to buy my ex-husband out of the family home so I could maintain some sense of normality for the children as we went through the divorce process. So taking a step back from that, she said to me, okay, so if that's what you really want, what do you need to do? And when we looked at my financial position, we realized that I was ploughing a lot of money into paying down the mortgage, for example. I was putting a lot of money into longer term investments like my pension. And she said to me, okay, so what you're basically doing here is you're tying money up that potentially half of that you're going to have to negotiate to pass on to your ex-husband. So one of the things I did immediately, so this was quite a time before I made the decision to finally divorce, was I stopped doing those long-term things and I built up the liquidity in my finances. And so what that meant was that once I decided I had to end the marriage, which was about 18 months later, I had the capital, the liquidity to be able to negotiate more around things like me taking the house and paying my husband a lump sum than I might otherwise have been able to do if I had just kept ploughing the money into paying down mortgage and creating equity in the house, for example. So that was one of my key things, was I know not everybody has the ability to plan in advance for a divorce. But if you know that you're the one that's going to instigate, if you know that you're the person that is going to potentially drive the process, then I think one of my key things would be, think about what good's going to look like for you, and then think about, what do I need to do now with my finances to potentially make that doable, to make that happen.